Hey, Rodney, I hope you're having a great day. Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
Doing great, Ryan. How are you?
I'm good. Certainly, Alabama back out on the practice field on Friday. Looking forward to a little Crimson Tide news as they prepare for the Clemson Tigers again.
Yep, again. Third time. Can you believe it? 3 straight. Becoming a neat little rivalry of sorts, I think, Ryan. I've talked about this a little bit. Sometimes you develop rivalries with teams maybe outside your conference over a period of time. Back in the 70s, there was a little thing that got going with Notre Dame, obviously, in some really crucial games that really became a heated deal, at least for Alabama fans, because, Notre Dame cost Alabama some national championships. But, as you look at this one, I think it's certainly become a rivalry, but I think it's got a little bit of a different feel to it. It's not. I don't feel maybe a harshness or whatever it might be that you would feel maybe if it was Ohio State. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. No, I agree with you. I think there's some mutual respect, and I wonder why some of that is when Nick Saban does retire. You would expect that first phone call possibly might be Dabo.
Yeah, I don't know. I understand that point. That's certainly something you think about. Where it's involved. But it's been 2 really great games. Obviously, I think someone pointed out last night that, the 2 games, Ryan, what separates them in these 2 games is 1 point. It's Alabama 76, Clemson 75 over the last 2 years. And this one, as I look at it, as we kind of start looking ahead, I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring. We've had 2 that have kind of been up there a little bit. We had 45-40 and 35-31 last year, and I think this one might be a little lower scoring. I think we might be in the mid-20s, maybe upper 20s at the most, if I'm kind of thinking right. So we'll see.
Vegas agrees with you. They've got the over/under set at 47 right now.
Oh, okay. All right.
So Rodney and Vegas on the same page. We call them the experts in the desert is the way that we refer to Las Vegas.
Well, I don't know anything about Vegas. I can assure you of that.
I knew you didn't, but I'm just saying your line is very similar to what they're thinking as well. So they think it's going to be a game. Rodney, help me fill in the blank here. Alabama wins the game against Clemson by doing what, in your opinion?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, you can't give them anything. You know that.
Sure.
But this is a different Clemson team. Look, Bryant's a good quarterback. That's not what I'm saying. But we know he's not Deshaun Watson. They have good receivers. Renfro's killed Alabama the last 2 years. Of course, he's back. But I think that Alabama has a really good chance in this game. I think that play good defense. This could be a defensive struggle. I mentioned that. You don't turn the ball over. Alabama's running game, I think Alabama is probably, to me, has a better running game than Clemson. I don't think Clemson's going to be as much of a threat throwing the ball down the field. I think all of those things are advantages for Alabama, in this game. And if they don't turn the ball over, I think they've got a great chance to win the game. Now, if they go out there and play anything close to what they played against Auburn, then there you go. But I wouldn't think that's going to happen again. Now Clemson defensively, Ryan, their defensive front's kind of on another level.
Sure.
So Alabama's got to figure out a way to deal with them. Auburn's is right there, pretty close to them. They're good as well up front defensively. Alabama ran for 209 yards on 37 carries against Auburn. If they can run the ball like a little bit like that on Clemson, and again, I go back to what I said before the Auburn game, Ryan. I do think Alabama's going to have to be able to throw the ball some successfully in this game, to really have a maybe great chance to win.
We had a stat that was thrown out on this show, and I'm gonna throw it to you, and I want to hear your response. Brad Edwards, somebody that that many years ago He was here at the University of Alabama. Matter of fact, I believe he tried to walk onto the football team as a kicker and then ended up as an injury and ended up in sports information. Then he made his way to ESPN. He's been up there for probably 25 years. Brad threw out a stat yesterday that I'm gonna share with you. Against the last 6 ranked teams that Alabama has went up against, you would have to go back to Washington and Clemson of last year to add all this together. He said he compiled the data, and he looked at third downs alone, and they're 20 of 79 against the last 6 ranked teams that they've played. In other words, quality teams, quality defenses, they're 20 of 79. And he said it really starts on first down. They're getting behind the chains. They're not making it, predictable downs. It's second 9. It's not where you're making it easy on yourself on third down. How much does that just go back to maybe pounding the football a little bit on first down and seeing what you've got with these studs in the backfield?
Yeah. Well, that Gary Harris on the Gary Harris show on your station earlier this week on Monday, we were talking about the third down. And, he was asking, how do you turn that around? And I said, well, first of all, you start on first and second down. Obviously you've got to have success on those early downs, put yourself in short yardage situations. Somebody had a stat today that of a lot of those, I guess it was those same games, Ryan, that the average was like 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 9, whatever it was on those third downs. I mean, you just can't be successful with that. So when you were talking about the keys to the game earlier, previous to this, that is the key, to me, the key. And I think part of that too is, you've got to be able to kind of keep these teams off balance because look, Clemson's defensive front, I don't think you can just line up and run it right at them. So I think you've got to be able to do some things, whether, they run into the edge a little bit more and, maybe utilizing some other throws, that being able to diversify is what I'm trying to say in the passing game. I think that, Ridley's caught 55 passes, and the rest of the group has caught 54. The second leading receiver is a running back with 14, if I remember correctly. That'd be Bo Scarborough. So I think you got to be able to throw the ball, diversify it a little bit, get Clemson off balance, and then I think that all of those things, can help you have success. But you talked about the third downs. They've got to get in those third and shorts, and if they do, now that's when you can really kind of take advantage of those running backs.
Rodney, let me go to the defensive side of the football. Do you think health alone, getting some of these players back healthy, will fix Alabama's defensive issues?
Well, I don't know about, they've been pretty good, I guess, numbers-wise. But, yeah, I think that certainly when you have a healthy Mack Wilson. Now Sean Deion Hamilton's obviously not going to be out there. That's a blow because I do think he's heart and soul of the defense. He just knows how to. He's really good at getting everybody where they're supposed to be. And, I just think he's the heart and soul. But, Hootie Jones won't be out there, I don't think. So you're missing a couple of guys, but Mack Wilson, Terrell Lewis, Christian Miller, I think you've got a great opportunity to get Deshaun Hand much healthier. He seemed to be limping around at times, even though he came back. So I think, allowing them an opportunity. Let me go back to this, Ryan, just to use this as an example. You remember 2010, Alabama lost 3 games. Early in the season, Courtney Upshaw twisted and had a high ankle sprain. It bothered him all year. You had some other guys who were beat up on the defensive side of the ball. That team, between the last game against Auburn, and then you remember how they obliterated Michigan State in the bowl game. And I thought a lot of that, I remember thinking, this defense, this team, they look so much quicker, they were healthier, they were faster. It was just amazing the transition from towards the end of the year to what they did in the bowl game. So I say that to say that I do think this period will allow the team to get really rested up, as you noted, and could be a very big factor, in this game against Clemson. Because I do think it's, to me, as I projected, I think it's going to be more of a defensive game.
Rodney, how do you think Jeremy Pruitt's impact, or do you think it will impact Alabama's preparations for Clemson?
Well, as far as the preparation for this game, I really couldn't predict that. Obviously, a couple of years ago, they won it with similar situation with Kirby Smart, as you recall. I think Pruitt, from what I understand, was, he really wanted to stay on and do this. He wanted to see it through. So I think they're going to get the best of Jeremy Pruitt. I think Alabama will definitely, these players, I think he's committed to helping Alabama win this thing. So from that standpoint, obviously he's going to be stretched thin in some ways. I think he can deal with that. I think Nick Saban always has a plan in place to help them deal with that. He's talked about it before. So I think he's going to get some help on that. And I would expect the best out of Jeremy Pruitt in terms of trying to get these guys ready, Ryan.
Rodney, you have been following Alabama football as long as anybody that I know. And as far as the historian of the game of Alabama, where does Minkah Fitzpatrick rank, in your opinion, as far as a defensive back that you have seen at the University of Alabama?
Well, they've had obviously a lot of great ones. Nick Saban's had just a ton of them. There's been great ones through the years. I just think that Minkah Fitzpatrick is one of the, the best. I don't know how you really
judge
right.
That. There's not a lot of metrics to do that, right?
But I can tell you what, that there hasn't been many that are you could say are clearly better. This guy, Ryan, he came in as a true freshman. He did not enroll early, but he made an impact right away. I remember him on the field that very first game against Wisconsin, just playing well. Had a couple of deals where Nick Saban got onto him, but, he has just been a great player from almost day one. And made some big plays that year, had those couple of pick sixes against Texas A&M in that game out there. He had the play against Georgia where he scooped up that ball, they blocked the punt, and he just scooped up and ran it in. So a lot of big plays from the very first, part of his career. And when you look at him and what he is, I just think he kind of encompasses everything you look for when you're talking about a player, student athlete, the way he handles himself on and off the field. He's got a great personality. I thought he's always been extremely respectful, in the media opportunities we've had to interview him. So when you look at Minkah Fitzpatrick overall, he's as good as there's been.
Rodney, I want to go to recruiting here for a couple of minutes. Can you talk about Alabama and what you see right now with this signing class, or what will be a signing class?
Yeah, I think they're doing well. Ryan, there was a lot of talk early. You remember when they were 64th in the country in
Sure.
recruiting or whatever it was, and I think you asked me one time, is this a reason to be alarmed? And I said, Ryan, this class is going to be put together late. Everybody needs to just kind of relax. And now I think they're 10th. If you look at these ratings, they picked up a couple of really big ones last week, and I think they picked up a nice tight end too. Michael Parker from up there at Huntsville Westminster Christian, and then the Dab Joseph defensive back, and another defensive back, Savion Smith, both outstanding players that need position. So I think they're moving up. I think they're going to do really well as they close out here. I do say this, though, Ryan. It's getting more and more competitive. You've got Kirby Smart over there at Georgia who's really doing a nice job. Alabama's had to bump heads with him some. You've got Jeremy Pruitt going up to Tennessee. He's going to do a really good job. He's putting a good staff together. I think they just hired that guy from LSU, Austin Thomas, who is going to help them a lot, I think, in their recruiting. So that's going to be a tough competitor. I think Jimbo Fisher out at Texas A&M, if you look at him right now, I think he's kind of muddied the waters a little bit with Jalen Waddle, who I've said to me for months is the most dynamic player in the country with the ball in his hands in this year's class. I thought he was headed to Alabama. Now it's, we'll see what happens. Jimbo Fisher's kind of muddied that up a little bit. Bobby Brown's a guy that was already committed to them. I would say watch him, the defensive lineman from Arlington, Texas. I know Tosh Lapoy is doing a great job with him. That might be one worth watching, possibly flip into Alabama. We'll see. But I think all this competition, Willie Taggart now at Florida State, Dan Mullins down at Florida, he's going to recruit well there. So I just think it's really going to be competitive, Ryan. I do think Alabama's going to finish strong, have a nice class, really good class. But I do think that, it is becoming more and more competitive. I'm not predicting that Alabama's going to slip. I want to be clear. but I do think that it's becoming tougher.
Well, Rodney, how much does that go back? I understand Nick Saban is one of the greatest that this game has ever seen, but he has lost a ton. And I know you've mentioned the guys that got head coaching jobs, but look at the elite recruiters that he has lost in the last few years. Jeremy Pruitt, obviously lost him. Mario Cristobal, Billy Napier had done some pretty solid things. I mean, they've lost a lot of elite recruiters, and you think about Bo Davis a couple of years ago. I know that same sort of gets pushed back, but I mean, he was a big-time recruiter.
Yes, he was. He was. You know, Bo did a great job. Bo was a tremendous defensive line coach too, and that certainly lured a lot of guys here. You know, I'll say this: I think Tosh LaPoy is as good as anybody in America as a recruiter. And first of all, Nick Saban's as good as a head coach as a recruiter as there is. So I do think Tosh LaPoy is outstanding. I think Mike Loxley at wide receivers coach has got a tremendous reputation as a great recruiter. And I'm certainly not saying anything about the other guys. I happen to know a little bit more maybe about some of them than I do the others. And I do think this, Ryan. I do think with whatever openings Alabama has coming up on their staff, we know they've got to fill a spot with Pruitt. We know that they're going to have that 10th assistant coach, you know, that they're going to have that vacancy or that opening to fill. You're also going to, you know, you may have another opening. I don't know. Maybe two. Who knows? You never know. I'm not predicting that, but things do happen. So whatever openings they have, I do think that one of the emphases will be, as always, is to get, you know, top-notch recruiters. You know, guys who can help them stay on that level recruiting. Nick Saban has always done it. You know, he's always found a way to make it happen and get guys in here. You know, just to give you an example of, you know, out there right now, there's been some talk that the guy at Michigan, Chris Partridge, he was I think 2016, he was National Recruiter of the Year. 2017, National Recruiter of the Year. You know, I've heard that he's talked to Alabama about possibly coming down here. So, you know, that's a guy to keep an eye on possibly. You know, and there are others. I'm not saying it's limited to him, but I know that Nick Saban is certainly, that's going to be one of his focal points when he fills some of these spots.
Rodney, you think Tosh LaPoy is the guy, or do you think he's the big-time favorite of getting this defensive coordinator job?
I think, you know, he's co-defensive coordinator now.
Sure.
You know, Ryan, so I would say this. If he doesn't become the quote-unquote defensive coordinator, I could see him and somebody else being co-defensive coordinators. That would not surprise me at all. So, I would keep an eye on that. I think that Tosh LaPoy, one thing about Tosh LaPoy is this. I think everybody realizes that he's going to be he's a young coach. He's developing. And I think in time, he will probably be outstanding defensive coordinator, whether it's now here at Alabama or later, whatever it is. But he's very valuable to this staff. I mean, when I talk about as a recruiter, there's no school in the look. Kirby Smart would love to have him right now. Jeremy Pruitt would love to take him with him. There's not a school that would not want Tosh LaPoy. I think Mario Cristobal would probably love to have him right now as well at Oregon because he has those roots on the West Coast. But, yeah, again, in short, it would not surprise me if they remain co-defensive coordinator, but we'll just have to see.
Rodney, talk about TighterInsider.com and how fans can get in touch with you. Obviously, get a lot of information there at TighterInsider.com.
Yeah, TighterInsider.com. It's only $48 a year. Get instant access with your credit card, or if you prefer, there's an address there to send a check. Look, Brian, they have access to all our premium information, but also there's some stuff on there they can watch for free, videos and Tighter Insider TV if they missed it on here locally. But also, Brian, on our forums, I mean, it's just a nonstop flow, as you know, of exchange and information and so forth. So, TighterInsider.com, it's only $48 a year.